Welcome everyone again to the day's webinar on the PR for CPG brands and how to use it to grow your business. PR is one of my favorite tools of sharing your story behind not just the company and the products, but you, the founder, and allows you to build a deeper relationship with a much larger community. For this conversation, I've invited on Heather Holmes, who is the founder of Publicity for Good, and she works with tons of companies to help them develop their story and then pitch that to press of all kinds across the entire country. I've been working with her and her team for my business, Joyful Co., and have gotten multiple television spots, podcast appearances, and articles. I actually have a interview coming up on Monday with one of the Fox affiliates in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and super excited about that to promote their Joyful Co. Valentine's Day boxes. And so I know from personal kind of firsthand experience what her team can deliver. So for the day, what I'd love to do, we're going to have Heather talk through some initial strategies and tactics for PR for CPG brands, and then that'll be about 15 minutes or so. Then we're going to open it up to do audits for brands who are in the audience and listening. So again, if you would like to have you to talk to Heather on the call, just let us know in the chat, and then we'll be able to call you up. So with that, Heather, welcome on in today, and would love for you to give just like a quick overview of the work that you do, and then we can jump into the strategy presentation.
Yeah, so I'm Heather. I'm the founder of Publicity for Good. I have been doing food PR for 13 years. And, at PFG Publicity for Good, I tell my team of publicists that I want every morning to feel like Christmas working with us in our organization, and that we take our mission really seriously. We take the mission of the brands that we partner with, because we have seen the miracles that happen of people telling their story. A lot of times you get more confidence. People start realizing you actually have a business. A beverage brand just did a small TV segment in New York, and he had 100 people buy from him on Amazon. Would that change your trajectory in life? So I see miracles happen every day. I see people getting more speaking engagements. I see people being more connected to their why, because how often do you feel in the trenches building your business and you forgot why you got started? And then lastly, a lot of local media, if your friends and family don't think what you're doing is a real business, right? Like, I've seen people get local media or TV or newspapers, and then all of your family is talking about the great work you're doing. So really love Publicity, have seen it help so many brands. And what I love about Publicity is all you need is your messy story, your hero's journey. So
I love
uh,
it.
so I am going to quickly go through a presentation. It's very tactical. You're going to be able to take this and start reaching out to the media. And it's a new year, so why not start now getting your story in the media? All right. Can you see my screen?
And we're good. We can see it.
All right, so I am Heather, the founder of Publicity for Good. I'm also a mom. I have a 2.5-year-old, a 1.5-year-old, and a 6-month-old. I was just at Fancy Foods and the Fit Expo, so I'm either full-time a mom or doing publicity. But I feel like all life is one. You can't put your hat on. Oh, I'm a mom. Oh, I'm a dad. Oh, I'm running a food company. Life is one. So it's exciting the life that we live and how we can make a difference with our company. Just high level, we are the #1 purpose-driven communications brand for CPG brands. And that means we're really good and passionate about getting you in the media, managing social media, getting you awards, and then getting influencers. But what we're most known for is getting you in the media, growing your impact, helping you communicate your brand story. And we've worked with so many incredible brands. I'm just showing this so you understand why you should listen to me and why you should take some of the tactics I give you today to really grow your business. And I know it feels scary to be in the media, But I always tell people, think of who is going to be inspired by hearing your story. Maybe they want to start a business, or think about the family whose life will be better because they know about your product. When you kind of let go of your ego and your fear and just do the media, you're going to serve more people. And if you don't do the media, your competitors are going to do it. So we have to do it as well. Um, and it's a marathon, not a sprint as well, right? Like I just had 3 babies and I'm like, and like I threw on makeup before this meeting, right? And it's like there's always something like you don't have that outfit or you're not ready or right? Like we all feel that, but if we remind ourselves that it's about the mission, it's about who's going to be inspired by the product and getting in the media is going to grow our business, it can feel really less scary. So I want to cast the vision of one of my favorite stories for you to understand what is possible for your brand. So there was a popcorn company who first started out as a movie theater, and everyone loved their popcorn. And their mission is in story is about 90% of their employees have a disability. Okay, and it's this really incredible movie theater in Connecticut. And because everyone loved their popcorn, they said, okay, we're going to start creating popcorn that people can buy and take it from the movie theater. And then as well, people can buy online. No Amazon, just on their website. We started working together like right around Christmas, and we realized that January 19th was National Popcorn Day. There's things that happen in the world that create opportunities for your business that are out of our control. But there's an awareness day for everything, right? Where it's Black History Month, National Nutrition Month. There's National Wine Day. There's all of these opportunities for you to lean into. So because of National Popcorn Day, we decided we are going to utilize that. And our goal as well was to be positioned as the best popcorn brand, okay? And they had no media experience, smaller brand, no traffic on their website, just a product that people loved. Now, for National Popcorn Day, they had the highest day of sales ever. They ranked on Google, and that is all from doing a mixture of local media, sending product to bloggers, and a little bit of national media. So when I look at what should you do as a brand, it's looking at, building the ladder, local media, media in Ohio, and then from there, going out to all the different outlets. Now, what I want to first talk about is competitor analysis. When you start thinking about getting yourself in the media, I highly suggest that you look at your competitors' websites to see where they've been featured. And you can literally do that by just going to their website, or you can go to Google and do some digging to see where they've been featured. You need to know that because that needs to go into your long-term plan for pitching the media, okay? But what's possible for PR is in a year's time, the popcorn brand, 18% of all the media mentions for the category was for gourmet popcorn was prospector popcorn. But those results were layered upon layer, right? Let's send some product to some bloggers. Let's do some media in my city. Oh, it's Autism Awareness Month. Let's do national media. Like all the success you see here and most brands that I've ever seen, they start small. They start working with food bloggers. They get products in the hands of people. They start telling their story and they're consistent. What you're looking at here is an analytical dashboard. When we work with you, we set up an analytical dashboard. What I don't want you to do is start pitching the media and not be consistent. The biggest opportunity you have as a brand is consistency. Meaning, most brands will launch a product, write a news release, put it on the wire, send it out, spend all this time doing it, praying and hoping for results, and then nothing. The power comes in with consistency, right? Like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Women's History Month. If you're willing to be consistent and get your brand in the media monthly and consistently, you will have more success than a brand who invests all their money and gets all the media in 30 days, right? Like we want to build a household name, and a household name is committed to reaching as many people as possible. And, they're willing to do every single interview. Even Jordan, you are a very seasoned entrepreneur and you're still doing smaller podcasts. You're still doing TV segments that are not in top markets. Because of that, you're going to be very successful because we work with the Today Show, but they want to see clips of you on other stations before they say yes to you. So when you commit to the journey of PR, you're going to get closer to your mission. You're going to get a lot of product in the hands of consumers. But I would say you have to be open and willing to the journey, and that the people who are the most successful are open and show up for every podcast excited. Because even imagine a trade show, someone comes by your booth. They don't have they don't have the badge saying they're a retailer, and you don't really acknowledge them. Like, what if their wife was the head of wine at Whole Foods? You don't know who someone is connected to. So that's why, as a brand, not only do you need to say yes to every opportunity that's in alignment with you, um, and just be committed to the big picture, doing the rep work and everything. Now, how PR grows your brand is a couple things. When you start getting in the media, you can start telling investors and retailers how you're in the media. So I see brands when they have internal updates, or they will email their consumers or investors. They incorporate the publicity into their email marketing. If you have investors or you want investors, imagine being able to tell investors that your product is getting more publicity than competitors. We can see right here, Flying Embers had 60 pieces of coverage. Their competitors only had single-digit features. Flying Embers had an exit, but it's a consistency piece. And the most successful brands, and I even feel this in my gut, when I go to trade shows, if I see a brand that doesn't have like the leadership at the booth and it's just demo team members, it starts losing its authenticity. So the most successful brands are committed to reaching as many people as possible, telling their story, knowing every rep they get will build upon each other. Local TV, if like my favorite vertical is you guys getting on local TV. A lot of local stations will do on-air taste tests where you just send them product. And if you're open and you have a feel-good story, a lot of them will do full segments on you. And that's just through pitching the media. The segment right here on CBS News Minnesota was about the brand, and they had 1,000 new customers buy from them. Not every interview is going to bring in sales. It's going to increase brand awareness. It's how you integrate it into your marketing. It's reaching the audience of the TV station, in that we have to have a social media following, but one TV segment, you could reach millions of people. So absolutely, PR will not only grow your brand presence, but it absolutely could bring in sales. And really, it's going to be telling your brand story and building your community as well. Here's another thing too. We're seeing retailers go to brands and ask for more products because of their publicity. There was a feature that happened on today.com online, and they were talking about favorite products at Target. And because of that, Target gave the brand more shelf space. So this is happening all the time. It's strategic. I'm telling you the vision because to get here, you need to be willing to do, honestly, as much publicity as possible. Even for podcast hosts, every podcast will give you 30 pieces of content. So you're getting your reps in, you're practicing, right? You just need to be so confident with your messaging. And then on the flip side, again, every TV interview you do is content, and every podcast interview you do, you will get 30 pieces of content per podcast interview.
Heather, I know we talked about this
Huh?
before, but I'd love for you to just break down when people hear the, wait a second, 30 pieces of content. I just did one podcast episode. Like, how do I actually break that down? Like, what are some of the top ways to just easily start breaking down that recording into content?
Yeah, so any piece of content, I first think full 360. So if you're doing a podcast, well, first of all, every podcast you do, it is expected, kind of kindness, industry standard, that once it's live, you are going to promote it. Meaning, Jordan has an incredible podcast. It's kind of unspoken terms that I'm going to promote it because he wants viewership and readers. So before I answer that question, I just want you guys to step into being a promoter, and that the more you tag and promote the podcast or media you're in, the more they're going to want to have you on their show again. And that it really is expected. If you're on a podcast, you tag the host and they'll reshare it. But how do we, take our publicity and podcasts and create little sound bites and everything? I mean, typically every podcast I do, I ask for the raw clip. Sometimes podcast hosts will say no, and that is fine. That's typical, right? But if you can get the Zoom clipping of it, you then can create reels from it. But also what I do is if I'm on a podcast interview, I'll transcribe that for LinkedIn e-news, my e-news to my group, social media posts. Like, I am way better at talking like this or being interviewed than writing things. So I'm going to take this and then ask myself, how can I create content for the next 30 days around this content? And for me, I'm going to take this video audio format and create e-news, create social media posts, all those things from this hour we have today. So you guys need to think 360, and you also need to think, is this something that I can promote? Right? Like, you always need to be promoting. If you're not promoting yourself, people don't know you. So that means even if you're at a trade show and it's all optics, even if you don't have a booth, take your product, get photos of you at Fancy Foods saying, I'm so grateful to be at Fancy Foods, meeting with incredible brands, tagging some of my favorite brands. You always need to be doing that. If you get into the system of doing it, it's easy. It's not that hard, but you ask yourself, how do I take this piece of content and utilize it for all my marketing? There's AI and chat GPT tools that make it extremely easy. And then how do I essentially take this experience and amplify it and even share the good news? The thing I think we have going for the CPG space is LinkedIn is really popular. And Jordan, you have a huge following on LinkedIn, but people want to see the journey. So if you look at a brand like Midday Squares, they're one of my favorite chocolate brands. They share the journey, like the whole journey. Product was spoiled. We got national distribution. So you need to, I would say, not only pitch yourself to the media, but view yourself as an expert and share the journey, every piece of the journey along the way. It's just getting your system in place. And what I do a lot of times is I do a reflection piece where I say, where did I win this week? What lessons did I learn? What big things happened? And how can I share that with my community? So it's super important and it's easy, and you just have to get into the system behind it.
Awesome. Love that.
So I want to go through the rich formula, and this is mostly a practice that you guys will do on your own, but this will help you start crafting your story, the founder story of your brand. And this is something I created from doing PR for 13 plus years, working with 300 plus brands, but I call it the rich formula. So the R is to reflect on who you are as an entrepreneur. And what the exercise is essentially like taking a piece of paper and drawing like a stick figure of yourself as a baby, and then writing key moments that happened to make you be leading your business. So it's the highs and the lows, right? Because a lot of times we start our business, but then we miss the other components that we can talk about. In that, I'm the founder of Publicity for Good. I'm really good at PR. But because I've done the rich formula, I have other things that I talk about where I'm still mentioned as the founder of Publicity for Good, but I'm not talking about PR. Does that make sense? So the rich formula, you're going to write down key moments, highs and lows that have happened in your life. The goal is to be able to get the story of why you're an entrepreneur. Does anyone have any questions about that?
What's the best way of like going through and making it? I think you kind of said like the stick figure. Are there certain things that are like really important for storytelling that people care about?
It's the hero's journey. There was an entrepreneur at the time that I was working with in 2016. He essentially learned Facebook ads and he sold pizzas and built this story, pizza boy to six figures. Um, and it was so crazy. It was so National Social Media Day. We got three stories in Business Insider. We did some TV in Orlando. He was only doing six figures at the time because he knew Facebook ads. He essentially took all of the segments and ran traffic with the clips, and he literally made seven figures in 30 days. And now I don't know if anyone follows the ClickFunnels community, but Dan Henry probably makes almost $100 million a year. He's a digital marketer. But
Awesome.
to answer your question for headlines, I mean, to get inspiration, you can kind of look at some of those other headlines where they do founder story and everything, like rags to riches. But I think for now, it's just writing down the key pivotal moments, like if you lost anyone in your life, like just key struggles and everything, like why you're doing what you're doing, like why did you launch your product, all those things, because those are going to be things that you could talk about in the media as well. So the investigate is we need, so it's problem solution. And that when we do pitches, we want to make sure people see why you're the solution to what's going on or why your product is the solution. So a lot of it is looking at spins data and Nielsen data if you already have trends around the category. It also could be looking at trends or recent data around if you have a gluten-free product, like anytime you can get a percentage point of, connected to your industry. But how I do the investigation is if you have access to spins and Nielsen data, I would look there. But a lot of times I'll go to Google and so I just go to Google and I type in a topic. So I typed in Valentine's Day. So I see kind of what's already being talked about for Valentine's Day to see if there's anything that we can lean into from a pitch angle as well. Because when you're pitching, I've seen so many pitches, and because I write for so many publications, I see pitches, and I'd say most pitches suck and that they're really promotional and there's no editorial hook and there's no value to the media member, if that makes sense. So I always make sure that there's an awareness state, or you bridge the gap to something that's going on in the world to show why your product is a solution and why you should do a story as well. But to find for the investigation piece, I just go to Google and I look for topics. Now, sometimes I'll go to like a Nosh or BevNet to see what's trending too, but I typically use I use Google News and type in topics to see what's trending to get ideas as well. But I don't do that piece until like my R is settled, if that makes sense. Because doing the R and the rich formula will help you identify your key topics. So, example, I was adopted when I was a baby. I'm a mom. So, like, those are topics that I'm absolutely going to be in the media for, even though I'm not going to talk about PR. I'm also going to be talking about things I'm passionate about. And with that, it would just be Heather, the founder of Publicity for Good, a mom. Does that make sense? It
Yeah,
just
so
makes
it's
you
pulling out
more
those other parts of your like identity, your story that kind of made you who you are.
correct. So that's the investigate. The other is to connect with the media, and that at the end of the day, media members get hundreds of pitches a day, and it's very overwhelming. And at the end of the day, what matters for them is that they write articles that are going to get a lot of views. A lot of the bigger companies, Condé Nast, Hearst, they have an editorial department and commerce department. So if I'm a paid writer at these big publications, I write the story and then I go to the e-commerce department, and the e-commerce department figures how can they put in affiliate links? Because at the end of the day, they want to make money from the article. So if you have an affiliate program, that's going to be an advantage to the media, because at the end of the day, they care about traffic, reach, search volume, and revenue as well. Connecting with the media, going to trade shows is a really great way to connect with the media. LinkedIn is another great way to connect with media. I always advise you to read their content first and just start building a relationship. Reach out to them to tell you who you are, and just have them let you know if they ever need help on a story. Now, sometimes they might reach to you and say they need, a story around X topic and it's not your expertise. But typically, as long as it's not horrible on alignment with your brand, we typically coach and train our clients to do the interview. Like if Forbes is doing a story on, I don't know, non-alcoholic trends, like although Avid Vines is alcohol, I'd probably still push David to do it because he's a successful entrepreneur. He knows trends, and it would be featured on Forbes. Do you see what I'm saying? So a lot of it is just stepping into the expert and making yourself accessible to the media, because sometimes media is on a deadline and no one can get back to them, and if you can at least give them value and get them what they need, they're really happy. And then when they're working on that full wine story, they reach out to you. So it's like if you help them out, respond quickly, they'll help you out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then lastly, help and hunt. So again, it's about providing value to the media. It's about fast response time. And it's just hunting. It's going to Google Alerts. It's seeing what competitors are doing. It's watching the Today Show for stories. It's starting out local, because if you pitch national, they're not going to consider you unless you have, other features and everything. But that's really the formula. But I would suggest you start with reflecting on who you are as an entrepreneur, because if you don't know that, you need to have the product story, and then you need to have your founder story. And sometimes you talk about one and sometimes the other, and depending upon who the audience, you lean in with different things. So if it's a women's audience, you lean into the fact that, Joyful Co is co-founded by an incredible mom. If it's like Essence and Ebony, then we're like, hey, Joyful Co is incredible. Majority of their boxes have these incredible curated gifts from minority owned businesses. So it's kind of like dating. You say what's first to them, and then you mention the other things that could be of interest as well.
Awesome. I love this formula, Heather. I think it helps to really get into these details. With it
Yeah.
being about 30 minutes left, I'd love to jump into some of
Yeah.
the audits, and maybe we can mention some of the other things as well that you have as we're talking through those.
Yeah.
So, thanks for everyone who mentioned in the comments. So, I think we're going to start with Jenna from Cafezia. Jenna, are you able to come on video?
I am. Hi, can you see and hear me?
We can. It's great to meet you.
You too,
And
Jordan.
so here's what we love to do. If you can give just a quick, like 30-second, super short pitch on like the product and where you're selling and
Yeah.
start there. And then Heather will jump in with and maybe like if you've done any PRs to date. And then Heather will jump in with some questions. We'll have about 10 minutes to talk. I think we're going to get through about three people, 10 minutes each. Heather, I'll keep time and kind of let you know we're kind of at time and need to switch. And then we'll go from there.
So fun. Awesome. Thank you. So I'm Jenna Goodhand. I'm from Canada and I am the owner of Cafetia. We are coffee infused with wellness herbs that change the way that coffee tastes and feels in our body. So no jitters, no heartburn, no anxiety, just better taste. It feels better for you. So we sell direct to consumer. We also sell in retail. We're in about 105 stores across Ontario, the province that we're in. And we've just signed with some national distributors. So this year we're really focusing on going across the country and hopefully into the US. And yeah, so that's a little bit about the company. In terms of PR, it's really been reactive. Local news sources have reached out and asked to do interviews. But the end of last year, I did a scary thing and I went to a pitch competition and it went really well. And I was like, oh, wow, maybe this is something I should be doing for the company. And I realized that there's nobody else in the company that can do this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing that no one else can do for my company, is speaking and telling the story. So I'm here today with one of my newest employees, Kalila, and we're here to learn about PR and what to do. And yeah, Heather, I've been getting your emails for probably at least 6 months to a year, and I love them. And I was like, okay, I trust this company. I'm gonna give them an hour.
I love that. Yeah, we love advocating for really cool brands and people doing cool things. Your packaging is incredible.
Oh, thank you. I want it to feel like a gift. We're trying to bring people back to the roots of coffee culture,
Mhm.
connection, community, conversations, rituals around coffee, moving away from that hustle culture and more towards
Yeah.
nurturing ourselves. So we wanted the bag to reflect that. And we do want to be a global brand. So we wanted it to look like it could kind of fit in with any place that it would show up in the world.
Hey, great job on already starting to build out a little mini press page on your website.
Thanks.
So, I guess what's your key, like, what's worked so far for brand awareness? What have you done so far that's working?
Yeah, it's mostly been sampling. It's just been giving away little mini bags of our coffee. We've partnered a lot with yoga studios, wellness centers, large like wellness retreats. We'll give out a bunch of samples and give them away so people can try them, experience them, and then buy from retail. But I think that there's such a larger way to communicate in all the ways that you just said. So I just feel like once we kind of tap into some of those suggestions, it's really going to change our exposure.
I also thought too, and thank you for saying that, but we really do virtual sampling. So
Oh, okay.
imagine instead of having to be at a farmer's market every year, my husband started a soap line called Tombstone Soap. And like 2 years ago, we did some farmers markets during the holidays, and we quickly realized the direct to consumer route would be way better. We did not. We started a soap company to understand the pain points of CPG, but we quickly learned farmers markets, for us, at least in our experience, was not where we wanted to spend our energy or time or money. And there's so much value with like digital marketing and online and everything. So imagine being able to, get all these yoga media outlets and like whatever you're already doing in person, we can amplify that by getting products in hand, getting yoga publications to talk about how to integrate your coffee into their morning routine and everything, right? So
I love that.
that's another benefit too. Um, and you live in Ontario.
Yes.
So that's a big media market. Like I would totally suggest like you doing local segment. March is National Women's History Month. March is National Nutrition Month. Um, from a gifting perspective, we're right now working on like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day. So maybe like areas of opportunity for you would be to go on and talk about like gifting segments with your product too. Um, local media wants to highlight and feature local people. So I think that's a
Mhm.
huge opportunity. Um, have you amplified or decided like your for good component or what that could look like for the brand, like on a deeper level, like an organization that you're like, yeah, we want to partner with, or what, like Tom's Shoes, or like any thoughts around that?
Yeah, so we tend to trend towards mental health,
Okay.
anxiety, wellness. I'm recently getting comfortable sharing that I'm neurodivergent and what does that meant as an entrepreneur and as a
Yeah.
human being, as a mother. So that might be a direction as well, because I've noticed no one ever talks about that, which is why it's been hard to talk about that. I'm also a single mother.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a number of things. But I think mental health has kind of been like the primary so far.
Yeah. Mental Health Awareness Month is in May, and then Mother's Day is in May too.
Okay. Yeah, I love all your suggestions and just like I think it's so great how you think.
You have everything in place as well. What's your vision for Amazon and like scaling that, or Shopify this year?
Yeah, so one of the things that we focused on so far has been retail, but retail is really hard for CPG, as you probably know. The margins are just getting tighter and tighter. So this year we are looking at revamping our Shopify website and connecting it to Amazon as well.
Mhm.
So I'm going to just hire someone to kind of figure out the Amazon thing for us. Yeah,
Yeah.
we haven't done a lot of digital ads. That hasn't been something that we've done a lot of.
I encourage you to like lean into the food bevy community or any of the other communities you're in and kind of ask people what's working for them for e-commerce and everything. Of course, I think hiring someone that's done it for other CPG brands is super important. Does that make sense? Because dealing with CPG is way different than something else. So that would be my recommendation, is like ask your network who they know and then interview them and everything as well.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank
Uh,
you.
so my encouragement would be, you have the story in place. August is National Coffee Month. So there's so many things. Of course, for Publicity for Good, but because mental health is on your heart, if you partner with another mental health organization, um, you could do a small percentage. It doesn't have to be big, but then essentially you could have them promote you too. If you find a smaller organization, I could see them promoting your coffee to their email list. And now you have like another amazing, person promoting your coffee to their email list because they're getting funding. That's like a cause marketing. But when we were able to say, you had this mental health story, this coffee will help you feel calmer. And oh, by the way, they're partnering with this nonprofit and X% will go to their organization. I think as a founder, if you're in line with that, like it just makes you work harder. You know what I mean? It's about the mission, and it does help us get more publicity.
Yeah. Awesome.
So
Thank you.
Awesome. Love that. Any last questions, Jenna, before you transition?
Could you just describe virtual sampling again? Or what are some examples of that?
yeah, we do virtual sampling every day. So we work with hundreds of media members, I would say, weekly. And so we work with like yoga publications and send them product. So it's like, if that makes sense. So whatever your core target market is or events you're already doing, virtual sampling, I think I'm gonna like trademark that. But we get so much product in the hands of media members, bloggers, and TV stations. We're seeing a lot of success with TV stations taste testing product on air, just organically. Does that make your coffee's a little easier because who doesn't love coffee? And a lot of anchors and meteorologists they drink coffee.
Yeah.
So what we do is virtual sampling. The
Heather, and
outcome.
does
Sorry, go
that
ahead.
look like just like cold sending product to them, or is it getting an in with someone at the studio and like, hey, could we send some coffee for the team to try out and sample? Like,
It'd
where's
just be
the
like, yeah, like, hey, I'm a local business, started this coffee brand. Who's the best person to connect with and send product to the station? Of course, my intention is that you love it and that we can do an interview, but nonetheless, you guys get some free coffee.
Awesome.
Kind of like the law. I call it like the law of reciprocity.
Yeah.
I think on that too, probably make it like a little, like not too big, but like a little big and fun. So people are like, what is that?
Yeah,
Like,
I
it's not
tried.
just like a cardboard box in the corner.
Yeah, from communication perspective, I try to be as informal as possible. You know what I mean? I mean, if a
Awesome.
lot of people get free coffee and they like it, like they're gonna have you on. I think
Yeah.
when you do it, you can't get mad if they don't. Just but hold a space and know that they're going to. But I mean, worst case, you get your product in the hands of some influential people.
Awesome.
And then I think if you add the mental health component or have it be more of a story, other people struggle with that too. So it would be an easy switch.
Great. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks so
Yeah.
much, Jenna. Next
Thanks,
up, we'll
Jordan.
have David. Are you still with us, David?
Hi, everybody.
Excellent. Welcome on up and glad you could join. We'd love to give for you to give just like the quick 30 seconds on the company, what you do, and then as similar, Heather will have some questions for you.
Okay, great. So, uh, Avid Vines is a importer of organic, high-end champagne, certified organic champagne to the U.S. To help people celebrate shared moments and thrive in the next. Their organic nature leads to an experience that has no regrets the next day because of there's nothing sprayed on the vines or put into the ground that comes through and expresses itself in the juice that can lead to a histamine or inflammation or headache reaction. And additionally, the value we provide as the importer of record is bringing these delicate products across the most dangerous part of their voyage on the ocean in chilled containers. And this costs just twice as much as non-refrigerated containers, which is what the major brands that are at an arm's length, away from you, and that flood the market, but that are not put on these refrigerated containers. And in fact, will, because of their production methods, will often give you a headache. And I started Avid because I was on this journey where a drink that I celebrate, that I associate with celebrations and love due to my French and American cultural heritage. I am a dual citizen. Started giving me headaches. And I was like, my life is not going to work if this is the way if I have to give this up. And it was during a particular privilege to be vacationing in France in 2018 with my family that we went to the big houses where they teach you how to make champagne. And then we went to a small house that I had researched and discovered, and met a young man who was, the fourth generation winemaker, and was so floored by the experience. And my parents were there, and I was able to check, like, is this my palate with their palate? And in the end, I just told the guy, look, if you make me the importer of record, I will build a company around your brand, and I'll make this happen in the US. And it took them all 30 seconds to be like, okay, let's do that. So that's how Avid was born. And then it took quite a bit of time as I grabbed the tiger by its tail and learned how to build a business, and get an import license and find partners and
Perfect. I think that's awesome.
Yep.
What have you done in terms of PR to date? Anything in the US?
Well, you mean aside from joining PFG, and so I'm a member of the Raptor program, the Rapti program, and I've seen good results from the interactions. And before then, it was just investing in social media. And frankly, it was, I've made every mistake in this business. And as long as they're not failures, as long as you learn from them, but boy, there's a lot to learn. And so
you have a little bit of a leg up, I think, in having worked with their team. I'm curious, do you have any specific things that you have questions for Heather about for this call? And what you could get out of it kind of in the next 5 minutes or so? Or Heather, I know her team's also going to hop on like longer conversations.
Yes, fine.
I want to make sure how to make sure this is as valuable for you as possible.
I could talk for an hour, but what I'm looking for in particular is the result of some changes that I've made in the last 90 days. I'll explain it. Like, what I'm looking for are ways to engage what I will consider my new target customers, who are major online wine retailers. I'm skipping rather the state by state distribution model. It is painful, it's horrible, and it's full of unmotivated actors. And instead, through a partner, I have access to a network of the major ways that people buy wine online: wine.com, wineaccess.com, and dozens of others. And it's a grand opportunity. And this partner is proving themselves by selling great quantities of my remaining inventory. And we were going to start fresh by pre-selling these. My point is, in this relationship, I own the back of the bottle, the label, where my name, imported by Avid Vines. These partners have the customers, and I'm just building the pipeline to bring the champagnes to them. I still want to build the brand of Avid Vines, and I want to be able to bring attention through media to the occasional partner in this network. And so my question would be, this is slightly indirect. It's no longer, I would like to be able in the media, appearance, when someone asks me the question, oh my gosh, well, where do you find these amazing champagnes? To have prearranged something to say, well, you can find these on wine or join wine. I'm helping the efforts to say, drive customers to a wine.com and say, sign up, and on occasion you'll see these champagnes. Or always you'll be able to visit avidvines.com and order these champagnes directly.
So it sounds like there's kind of a couple different stakeholders, and you're trying to figure out how do I best pitch and promote those multiple stakeholders when it gets a little complicated, because you're not making the wines, you're importing it, you tell their story, you talk about where to buy it. Heather, any initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, but I honestly feel like you would be able to experience share better because it's similar to you, and that Joyful Co is your company, but then in the box you have curated products from other companies. So
Yes.
so I feel like you would have maybe a small experience share. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, David, in terms of what you're looking to do, especially as the business is changing, one thing that might help is thinking through like which goal are you looking to achieve through the media? Is it driving sales through one of your partners? Is it driving sales to your website? It gets complicated when you are sharing multiple different messages, right? Like buy over here, buy over there, here's the story of the champagne, but we're importing it like all those parts of your story are valid, but similar to how Heather was saying, it's important to just tell a very simplified version of that story for each media. And you can test it out at each different appearance or different articles or podcasts to see which ones resonate the most. And then based on that, you can continue to double down on like that part of the story that helps. Sometimes with Joyful Co, we share about the individual products. Sometimes it's more talking about the occasion. So we're doing a lot of things around Valentine's Day coming up. And so how do we talk about Valentine's Day versus every single individual business that we work with? Because there's over 100. And so there are multiple different paths to choose. But whenever you're doing that appearance, choosing the most direct, simple path, because that's going to help for the viewers, the listeners as well to understand who you are, what they do, and what action they should take.
I mean, I thank you for sharing that. And I guess I receive it it gives me the idea of saying, keep channeling to avidvines.com. That will be channeled to there. And then if I decide to feature a particular outlet, great. But it's always the message to stay consistent. Visit avidvines.com. It's on the back of the label of the bottle itself. If I'm making a media appearance, I'm in the process of increasing the media appearances that I've had thanks to Rapti and such on the website. So whether that leads to having an additional press page and then having a featured partners page, which include these outlets, you'll always be able to order it directly from us. Many times you'll be able to get it. This is not the message,
Yeah.
but you could get it cheaper at a different, channel partner. Like
And let them discover that. And I think that's great. Cool. I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot you're probably still like thinking about and trying to figure out, and the direct messaging, which is totally okay because we're all doing that. And so maybe even it might help to touch base with Heather and her team as well in terms of figuring out like what that strategy is moving forward, kind of afterwards as well. So we have time for one more company, and I think Sasha, do you want to jump up from Aunt Ethel's?
Yeah. Thank you,
Awesome.
Jordan. I appreciate it.
Of
Hi,
course.
everybody. My name is Sasha Milstein. I'm the founder of Aunt Ethel's Pot Pies. We manufacture gourmet pot pies that you can reheat in 5 minutes. We did this by creating some innovative packaging. We're the first and only two-part pot pie that separates the crust from the filling. So you just pop the crust in the toaster, pop the filling in the microwave, and the two get married and live happily ever after. Right now, we are looking for PR because we've really spent the last 2 years building a strong system, I guess, to manufacture as well as distribute our pot pies. So we have a co-packer now as a partner, as well as a 3PL. And recently we launched into over 100 Wegmans. We were on QVC a few months ago and we sold out of, I think, 8,000 units in 6 minutes. And the only really like exciting or successful PR we had was right when we launched. We were featured in the New York Times, and we were definitely not prepared for that. But we would love to really just start ramping up our PR, just because we're finally in a place where we can actually support and fulfill the orders. And so we're just looking at like creative ways of dumping a bunch of gasoline on the product and hopefully watching it light up.
That's cool. I think, did we originally get connected through TIG and Waven? Do you know? Maybe?
TIG?
Are you a part of TIG? No? Or are you just in Food Bevy?
No, but I think we were in touch like
Years
3
ago.
years ago when I first launched the company.
Yeah.
And I was
love
definitely
Pop
not
Pie.
ready.
Yeah. No, it's cool. Were you at Fancy Foods?
We were a few years ago. Yeah.
Okay, because
But we haven't done
Jennifer and
fancy
I
food
were
since
just there. I'm like,
21.
we missed you. So,
Yeah.
are you gonna be at Expo West this year?
No.
Okay. Walk us through 2025 new launches. Like, what's on your marketing calendar? And this exercise will help you guys see how I plan out like the PR plan. So, I guess what's happening in 2025?
So we just launched a new flavor, Shrooms Gone Wild. So we're hoping to really scale that out and provide some visibility. We also are looking at getting into a few different distributors, both in the Northeast as well as the Midwest. And we're hoping to just continue scaling into Wegmans as well as a few other like mid-sized retailers. And then we have another air date scheduled for QVC as well.
So there's a couple, and then what do you have key cities that your target that are important to you for your retailers with your current relationship, your current retailers?
Well, Wegmans is only in New York.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that's probably the best space to target since that's where we distribute.
Sure. And then when was the last time you guys wrote like a formal press release?
I don't think we've ever written one.
Okay. What have you guys done so far to launch the Shroom Gone Wild flavor?
Just send out some emails to our list.
What
And
coverage?
maybe mentioned it on maybe LinkedIn, I think.
Okay. So you're doing some things. What has come from it? What coverage?
Nothing. We haven't done anything in terms of like pushing the new flavor or really doing like a big market or PR, sorry, push.
Sure. Okay. You have everything in place. I want to kind of cast a vision of what's possible because most brands I see they have an announcement and then it like falls on deaf ears. We want to go deep and go as deep as we can with that announcement. Industry press, honor taste test. Does that make sense? Just keep the buzz as alive as we can. Now, National Pot Pie Day is September 23rd. So we build out an editorial calendar in that February is Snack Food Awareness Month. I also think it's Frozen Foods Awareness Month. March is Women's History Month. Mother's Day. Pot pie to me is a very, like, it reminds me of my mom. So see what I'm saying? We build out an editorial calendar around your initiatives, but then big picture too, and I want to show this to you guys so if you have a vision board or you can see it for yourself too, is we write a news release announcing the new flavor. We get all the industry publications to run it. Does that make sense? Strategically speaking about your new flavor. And then you integrate it into your marketing. And then what you do is you focus on the consumer side of things. And January was Veganary. October is World Vegan Month. There's non-GMO month. So what we do is we build out these editorial campaigns to keep the buzz going, right? Like phase 1 is let's announce the new flavor. And then phase 2 is just maintenance. How do we keep going? And then there's the brand story of Aunt Ethel's. And that I quickly looked at the website and like we have a whole onboarding process where we create your messaging, but just sharing, I feel like there's more heart I want to see brought out of Aunt Ethel's in that I don't really know the story of the brand on the website and I just quickly looked at it. So with that, we would help you with that, do that. But it's that consistency piece. Like you already have everything in place. Like I truly believe, and I know it takes money, but the brands that I believe that I see are the most successful and or get the most amount of press year over year is brands who are strategic with new product launches. And that media always says, well, what's the hook? What's the new news? So if you're planning a new product, let's do it quarterly and or look at when's the most opportune time to launch it. Does that make sense?
And when you say when you say put out a press release, like what platforms do you release it to?
So there's two different things. There's like the Newswire, which most companies typically do. The Newswire is a paid service. It ranks on Google. And And the benefit of that is you'll get backlink. It's typically on 200 or 300 websites, but the power really comes in, like we get like Nosh, Progressive Grocer, Frozen and Refrigerated Buyer, like all the industry publications run new products. And then a lot of times they have editorial calendars when they're featuring certain products as well, right? Like they know when they're featuring mushroom products and everything. So that would be all the industry publications. And then you need to build out the consumer story. And that typically what's in a new product news release for launching a new product is SRP, where to buy, all of that jargon, where the messaging for consumer would be, X% of people are sick and tired of eating fake soy meat. People don't always want to eat meat, but they want to eat mushrooms. Does that make sense? So that's the consumer problem solution that we bring.
And what platforms do you use to get to the consumers?
I mean, part of it is like we've been doing this for 13 years. So like there are media friends. That makes sense. We send text messages, we email them and everything. Does that make sense? So a lot of it is relationships. How you find those contacts would be like, go to Google, use tools to get their email address and like all of those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
The first thing that matters though is making your news release, making sure your news release is written good. Because if it's not, so that's like typically where you start. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think we did do a press release through Startup CPG, but I guess that's a lot different than doing it through something like Newswire.
Startup CPG is great. It's one of the ones I would suggest, but Newswire is like all on the web, where Startup CPG will probably only be on their direct website and their community, where the Newswire is like on Google. If someone types in Aunt Ethel's, it'll populate to the top.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the other thing, Sasha, I think you were kind of mentioning around consumers. I know we're at time, so if anyone has to hop off, totally understand. We'll be wrapping up in a second. Every source or every publication or platform has a different way that their readers behave. There's some publications, and I've seen this in Heather share as well, where like you do an article or an interview and you'll see like no direct relationship to sales, but people are hearing about you. Then there are others, and as Heather mentioned, like you'll see 100 orders from it. And so know that each one has a different purpose, a different goal. There's some that are more like consumer driven real see sales, there are other that are driven more towards like brand awareness in general. There's industry publications where you might get in front of a buyer who might know about you 6 months down the road when you pitch to them, right? And so, but you might not see anything in the near term. And so it is important to base your goal and identify your goal. Is it selling product? Is it general brand awareness? Is it industry awareness? Finding those publications that are the fit and then pitching to those a story that's interesting to them and their readers. And the news, kind of the press release that you create should be aligned with that so that the people that you want to tell your story would find that story interesting.
Got it. That's great. Thanks, Jordan. I appreciate it.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everyone who participated. Definitely appreciate you coming on. Heather, thank you so much for being here to answer questions. And I know we couldn't get through everyone, but if you have more questions and you're looking for more detailed help from Heather, she's offering to do a strategy session individually for everyone that's on the call. And so you can reach out via the link that's in the chat. We'll also send that as part of our follow-up as well, with the recording for the presentation. And then that way you can get in touch and start building your PR strategy for 2025. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining, and appreciate having you here. Bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah.